Welcome back, Nerd Squad, to Top 10 Nerd. I'm your host, Johnny Rogers, and if you happen to be new here, we put out daily content on all things nerd. So if you're down with that, then make sure you tap the subscribe button to never miss another video. Plus, leave us a comment down below with who your favorite comic book author is. While you ponder that, let's jump into today's list of the top 10 times comic book authors went too far. In at number 10, Spider-Man Clone Saga. This major story arc in Marvel Comics ran from 1994 to 1996, and as the name suggests, was filled with clones of the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, enough that they could have actually had their own neighborhood. From the start, this was actually one of the more popular Spider-Man stories, but greed took over in the writer's room, and its authors released an extended version. One that was never requested by fans, and one that sent a lot of characters' backstories into a downward spiral. Ben replaced Peter as the main Spidey and had his powers stripped away, which resulted in a massive outcry from fans. Then, to top things off, the original Green Goblin suddenly made a miraculous recovery and was resurrected from the dead, a decision that fans found to be illegitimate and very controversial. In at number 9, All-Star Batman and Robin. This comic book series at first was so highly anticipated and met with a number of fans who couldn't wait to crack it open to have a read. Although upon its release, many fans were very critical of the story written by Frank Miller, especially the way in which he strayed away from the traditional Batman storylines. Frank opted to go with a more violent, cruel, and often childish character. It is a shining example of something that's so bad you can't help but see for yourself. The All-Star Batman and Robin comic book had simultaneously achieved the highest sales of any comic book ever and the worst reviews of all time. People purchased the book because you would hear these stories about Batman feeding Robin rats and dropping these politically incorrect terms for today's age, and all that just stoked the curiosity of fans so much they had to see it for themselves. It really shows that DC doesn't care about losing fans so long as they're still making a profit. In at number 8, Cry for Justice. This 7-issue comic book limited series was written by James Robinson and drawn by Mauro Cascioli. While the art was praised by fans, the writing from Robinson, on the other hand, was strongly criticized. His big misstep with this comic book that fans viewed as too far was sending one of their key characters into the grave. The Justice League Cry for Justice was the appropriate name for how fans felt after witnessing Leanne Harper being sent 6 feet deep. This series was so highly criticized by loyal Justice League fans that DC even cut it from their roster of comics. However, despite all of this controversy, James Robinson was still nominated for Best Writing at the 2010 Eisner Awards. In at number 7, Aunt May Trouble. The comic book series titled Trouble was a 5-issue romance comic book published by Marvel and written by Mark Miller. It was considered to be their origin of Spider-Man and was attempting to bring back romance comics, which were kind of big in the 1950s. This series involved characters called May, Ben, Mary, and Richard, which were all meant to resemble Peter Parker's Aunt May, Uncle Ben, and his parents, or so we thought. There was a moment in the series where fans became extremely confused as it was suggested that Aunt May was actually Peter Parker's mother. Along with that oddity, sweet old Aunt May was being portrayed vastly different from how we usually view her character. Mark continually puts her in situations better suited for, well, the adult film industry, and doesn't do a great job of making Parker's relatives look like good people. In at number 6, Original Sin. This 2014 comic book storyline was published by Marvel and written by Jason Aaron and Mike Deodato. They were attempting to write a story that intertwined different heroes as they worked together to investigate a murder. It's kind of like if the Avengers did a murder mystery, and it's that type of writing that made fans feel like, well, the writers went too far on this one. It wasn't so much that they killed off any key characters or changed major storylines, it was just the strange choice of direction that the comic book went. Marvel also came under fire for their overvalued price of the comic, citing that the storyline was far too underwhelming to be considered worth that much. In at number 5, NFL Super Pro. This short-lived comic book series was published by Marvel and written by Fabian Nicieza. It revolved around, you guessed it, an ex-NFL star named Phil Grayfield who survives a freak accident and becomes a hero wearing an indestructible football uniform. The anarchist in me is immediately saying, Marvel, you corporate sellouts, what's wrong with you? And apparently the critics felt the same way, as it was named the worst comic in Marvel history. The writer even admitted that he wrote the story with the hopes of getting free NFL tickets. Even NFL fans hated this so-called super pro hero that could bring villains to justice while scoring sick touchdowns. Many readers believe the plot lines were as poorly written as its character, and that the idea of a rich football player also getting superpowers was something that no one cared about. In at number 4, Sins Past. The Spider-Man graphic novel titled Sins Past was a truly cringe-worthy adventure. Not only did Parker's sweetheart Gwen Stacy die, but it was revealed that she was having an affair with Norman Osborn. Plus, the fact that the result was twins that weren't his kids, I mean, what a slap in the face. And at that point, the writer should have just put in Maury Povich saying, "You are not the father," as Spidey dangles upside down in full costume. Not only did this writing change the romantic backstory built up in the Spider-Man history, but it threw in this unnecessary wrench into Peter Parker's actions. He proceeded to do strange things such as grave robbing, all while trying to figure out the story of these twins that weren't his kids. Makes sense. In at number 3, The Marvel Joke. Initially, this limited comic book series by Marvel Comics was meant to be of more satirical nature, but fans completely missed that joke. Even die-hard comic book fans were at a loss of words trying to defend this odd piece of work written by Bill Jemas. It was largely criticized for its confusing plot and overt sexually explicit scenes that served no real purpose for furthering the already strange story. As such, critics often refer to it as one of the worst comics of all time. Well, it seems to be a lot of these. And after 7 tries to make this story work, the producers ultimately shut it down. Although at that point, the comic book world had already seen too much and the everlasting damage of Marvel was burned into their brains. Oh, and let's not forget the moment where they almost made Iron Man drop a racial slur. Yeah, Marvel taking an L on that one. In at number 2, Ultimatum. This 2009 comic book storyline published by Marvel under their Ultimate Marvel imprint was written by Jeff Loeb and illustrated by David Finch. It entailed a 5-issue miniseries that was by far their best-selling comic book in January of 2009, but soon became universally hated amongst critics. In fact, it was the comic book that almost sunk Marvel for good. For the most part, the writers relied on shock value to get the reader's attention. However, this meant wiping out anybody and everybody that the fans loved. This is by far one of those times that the writers went too far, and that was made clear in people's criticisms, which were largely directed at the writers instead of the illustrators. It's not certain, but it's believed that Marvel lost an estimated 27,000 plus readers just from this series alone. Last but not least, in our number 1 spot, Superman is Boring. Rob Liefeld is the creator of Deadpool, and by now many are aware that just like his creation, he too is overly opinionated about things and doesn't care how far these opinions go. Although when it comes to Superman fans, they did not take kindly to his recent tweets. Rob said, "Time for a new crisis at DC, just vaporize it and begin again. Use Marv Wolfman's unused outline from 1985, adding, 'I gotta wait for a regime change, then not boring.' All of this is in reference to how boring he thinks the character of Superman is, which is one of those things that we've heard a million times already, and coming from someone in a position like Rob just seems a little petty, to be honest. And too far. And that has been the top 10 times comic book authors went too far. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then show some love by tapping that like and subscribe button. Plus, leave us a comment down below with your thoughts on this list. And for more videos like this one, all you gotta do is click that playlist on the screen. From Top 10 Nerd, I'm Johnny Rogers saying until next time, take care.